So welcome everyone tonight to our second Thriving Faith Communities, this great Environmental Justice League, which is our second cohort for Thriving Faith Communities. Tonight we'll be talking about our Energy Stewards platform. Ray Wilson is our most experienced person on Energy Stewards and will be explaining that to us, and also talking about a grant opportunity that will help cover the cost of an energy assessment. Will support the cost of an energy assessment. So those are two things that, and we'll just ask if everyone who maybe is not talking, if you can mute yourself, and then we'd love to have you contribute later on, but that way we can just get our sound going a little bit easier to understand everyone. So tonight, we really just wanted to take a second to kind of transition in between our busy day, this heat outside, so many things that are happening in the world around us, kind of at large. We heard of different big sufferings over the weekend. The Highland shooting, there was a shooting in Akron, Ohio. I think Ray said Philadelphia and a few others, and just some have been affected by that personally, I believe. And so we just want to take a moment to honor the suffering or the weight that each of us might be carrying from our day, even if it's just the stress of your normal day, and kind of hold a place for that for a second. And also I felt for myself kind of like to leave that space where I have felt lately we work so hard to work for the environment or work for the good of our society in different ways, and it can feel kind of overwhelming and like we take one step forward and two steps back. And I felt that I have to kind of also renew that piece of my experience as a person of faith that leaves that space for something greater to also intervene and to allow myself to be renewed by that. So I'm sure each of you in your heart also has what you feel is that answer in yourself also. So just wanting to take that moment for a second to honor all of this suffering and the weight that we're carrying today. Thank you. And then I also want to thank you for being here, because being in groups and in community like this is also what gives me hope to keep going forward. So thank you for being here and knowing that each of you is where you are doing your part. And in a small way, I hope that what we're trying to do here is part of that answer to bringing this kind of a light into the world of a different way of doing things. So I would like to invite Ray maybe to go over the agenda, but Dory, did someone want to mention something before we started?
I know Carol. Hi, Carol. You had a brief action for all of us. I know as we work through the small actions that we can take, or the rather medium-sized actions we can take in our own congregations, Carol has an action that we can take around all of Indiana around utilities and holding them accountable. So Carol, maybe for a brief minute.
1 minute. Here it is. Yes, because I said I had to leave. I am a social action person for the Indiana Conference of the United Women of Faith, which used to be the UMW, United Methodist Women, but it's open for all faiths. It's not just Methodist, I want to make sure. But because of social action, I wanted to affect people from around, include people from around the state. So I have a petition, which of course you cannot read here, but it says it's addressed to all the utility companies. And it's just a matter of saying that we want you to transition over to renewable energy as quickly and affordable as possible. I didn't put a dates on it so that it's not a something like, oh no, they have to do this by 2023 or something like that. But I also included, I wanted a clean closure of all the coal ash pods. Like for instance, we got Indianapolis, Harding Street plant was closed, but the ash from that pod is still seeping into the White River, affecting all the people in southern Indianapolis. So I just want to know that if I would send these to people, would you be willing? You can include as much information you want. If you want to include your email, cell phone, or address, or just so we know that it's 2 different John Smiths, you know, not just have a whole page of John Smiths. I have also info about AES and of how much it cost Indianapolis residents last year, because 3 coal plants in Petersburg broke down. Indianapolis had to, the consumers, not the stockholders, paid over $1 million to have them repaired, and also to buy electricity from another utility company for that. But this paper includes information for all the utility companies, so to have info. So that was just the info of having it, that it's coming from people of faith. It's not, like I said so many times, they say, oh, that hippie environmental group, you know, whatever. Sierra Club has helped me with this and helped me print some stuff, and will provide postage if you have a lot of petitions, that they will mail you envelopes, you know, to pay. So I just want, as anyone does not want me to send you an email with the information, or people, was that something you'd be willing to sign your name or ask family members or friends, whatever, to include? Because I like to include as many people around the entire state. Does anybody have any questions about it? Okay.
Or you
And
put the link to that in the chat also, so that if anyone,
I put a link into an AES specific one, and Carol has one that's broader also for the entire state. Everyone can sign both, but Carol will send out the.
yeah, I made up one for the entire state, so that to include more than just the AES one, you know, for that. But as I said, I will then, if I will use the same email addresses that was used to announce this meeting, that if someone is objecting, do not want me to include theirs, just let me know, or, you know, or let Dory know. But I'm just saying that that's, you know, I will include the info there. And then if you're able to print, unless you, or you could send to me, I guess, if you see my email on there, it's csa5305@gmail. That's the one to, if you have any further questions about, if you want us to print them and send you paper copies, we do need the paper copies afterwards. We're not taking signatures over the electronics, but I can send you the form, and if you want to print it. So, but if you want paper copies, that's something else. Just let me know.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Carol.
Okay, got 1 minute? Okay. Thank you so much for being involved.
What is AES?
AES is, it used to be Indianapolis Power and Light. That's IPL. They were bought by AES, which people think it comes from Carolina. It really comes from Argentina is the owner. They actually are down there, is the main, you know, source of it. But that's what it is, with the way you're people wondering what AES is.
Thank you.
Good question. Anything else? Okay. Thank you. And I'm sorry I have to leave for this other engagement, but I'm going to get the info later on, and excited, you know, to see everybody for a brief moment. Okay.
Great.
Thank
Thanks
you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Carol. Bye. All right. So we would like to just, I was going to say broadcast our agenda. Broadcast is not the word. Let's see here. I'm sorry, Dora, do you have that up? I had that up, but I've got a few screens here.
Yep, I can get it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So just real quick, not too many changes from what you saw earlier today. We're going to go through the agenda. Ray in particular and everyone will welcome and present all of our teams. We'll go through our norms for our meetings and our Thriving Faith Communities cohort. We'll talk about assignments and experiences and questions from what happened last month. We'll have a quick intro game that Dory is going to explain before Ray gets us into a deep dive with Energy Stewards. So that's going to be fun. And then there'll be time for questions and answers, because I'm sure that there will be questions and answers about Energy Stewards. And then we have information about applying for the grants for our energy audits. So how to get signed up and how to request those grants. And part of that, we'll also take a look at our Google Drive folder, make sure everyone has the link for the resources that will be available this month. Not all of them are there yet, but they will be, some of them are already there, and they'll be coming out in the next email. And then just confirming our next meeting and assignments that we'll have between now and the beginning of August. Then we'll have a brief time for just plus deltas. So, you know, what went well this time, what could go better next time, and a final closing that we'll have from Dory. So Ray, I'll hand it over to you.
Well, as far as welcoming and presentation of teams, I think we've seen, has anybody new who hasn't been here before? Pastor Bubaker, you weren't here the last time, I believe, right? Correct? Everybody else has been here, I think. Yeah, I don't think we need to spend much time on that unless there's something particular we need to talk about, Sarah or Dory.
Nope.
Okay, all right. Okay, so what was on the agenda for you? You guys have a couple of things you want to do before I start doing my thing.
Then I'll just share a screen with our norms real quick and we can go over that.
Please, yes.
So we have start and end our meetings on time, respect everyone's opinion, have and follow an agenda, share our achievements and special events, have a parking lot for important things that are not on the agenda. You can always share them later in an email. Embrace the struggles, create a database of resources like vendors that we might come across in this work, prioritize and allow flexibility at the same time, and then have someone attend from your congregation or watch the recordings afterwards. So we did have a few people send greetings that they would have wanted to be there, and they will follow the recording and be here next time. So now I think I can pass that back to you.
Actually, I think it's back to Dory at this point. She's going to.
You want to do assignments, experience, and questions? Okay.
Yeah, that we can do that. Did anybody have any putting your team together since the last time, or that you want to share experience or discuss a problem you might have? Anything that's happened since the last time we were together that you'd like to talk about? That says no. So let's go on to putting people into teams for a minute.
Okay, so this next activity is just to get our brain juices flowing as we move into Energy Stewards. So what we're going to do is there are actually 130 different energy decarbonization techniques that we can use from Energy Stewards, but we want to see what you all have in your brains at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to get you into teams. We're going to break out in just a second. We're going to give you just a couple of minutes, around 4 minutes, and Sarah is going to put in a link so that you can click on it now before we go into our broadcast teams. And what I want you to do is, in the 4 minutes that we give you, write down every single decarbonization, energy efficiency task that you think you know of that can help reduce energy. So just work together in your team. It might not be the team from your congregation. It'll be a chance to meet some new people, and we'll give you 4 minutes to do that. Any questions? So click on the link, and we're going to get you in teams. Your team will have a number associated with it, and I'm going to go ahead and assign those. You just click in, and we're going to do 4 minutes on the clock as soon as you get into your group, and I will broadcast when you have 1 minute left. On your marks, get set, go.
Oops, leave a-
Can you see my screen all right, Dory and Sarah? Okay, good. Welcome, everybody. I am going to rattle on here a bit, and I think if you have a question as we go along, right now I can only see a few of you, so you can put your hand up or something, and we can try to get those questions answered, and Sarah and Dory can help monitor that as well. So Energy Stewards is a front-end program that was built with some fellows up in Wisconsin. And it actually started with Lutheran Church, I think. And they wanted to work with congregations to see if they could help save energy. And then the town of Madison, Wisconsin got active in it. And for a while, they were very involved. The Indian, Interfaith Power and Light group over in Ohio has groups of congregations who use faith energy storage as well. And just for your information, all the back end heavy calculating and keeping track of all this data is actually done through a program run by EPA called Portfolio Manager. And so we can count on the data being accurately calculated, et cetera. So I'm just going to take you through what I see when I open my screen and I look for all the homes. I go to home and I start to see all the buildings. Right now, we have 31 active congregations. And I say active, that's a little bit of a misnomer in the sense that I know there are a few on here who are paying their money for Energy Stewards and they're getting some data, but they're not up to date and I'm not sure they're using it. And as a matter of fact, they're not part of Thriving Faith congregations. That's not a problem. It's just a fact. So there are 31, 25 of those do track their water. 18 of them actually have on-site production, so they have solar panels. So they're here for another reason, some of them. And as Dory mentioned, there are 130 suggested actions that you all can look at and get an idea, well, gee, that works for us, or we're going to do that, or why aren't we doing this? And so far, if everyone of all these congregations, only 10% of those actions have been looked at or done anything with. You can also see that we're almost up to $1 million worth of utilities in these 31 congregations. And believe it or not, this is a sort of surprise to me. It says that of these congregations, if we use a base year ending at December 2020, they've reduced their energy consumption by 22.33%, which really surprises me. And I need to dig deeper into that because it would seem to be just the opposite, maybe because of COVID. But anyway, that's what it says. Here we can, if I go down here to the subset, you can see that we can now sort by cohort 1. So if I click on that, you might see up here in the corner, it's now saying, okay, these are the congregations that are in cohort 1. And if I go back up here and click on cohort 2, you'll now see these are the congregations that are now in Energy Stewards. So that's you all. And of course, I can go down here to the independents, and that's the people who aren't in cohort 1 or cohort 2. And of course, if I go back up and I click on all, that gets us back up to our 31. And we can also sort another way. Some of us have schools. Some of us sort of have just churches, but there are several that have schools. There's just a few that have schools associated with their churches. So right now there are 5 that have schools associated with them. And I think we'll just view all at this point. And then you can set a different base time, but because some of the congregations here are very new and they don't have a lot of data in, we really can only go back a little ways as far as choosing data. If we have time, I can actually show you some congregations that have data back to 2008 and they're in here. So now,
excuse me, what are independents?
Independents are just people who are not part of the cohort or the cohorts. In fact, most of them who are independents are congregations that have joined this because they were really trying to track their solar energy data. They were early participants in this energy steward business. Does that answer the question?
Before Thriving Faith Communities.
Yeah, even
as a program.
Right.
Okay. So they're just not part of a team working with other churches.
Correct. Some of them are at this point, and some have now joined a cohort, like All Souls Unitarian. They have joined, and Bethel. Let's see here.
Okay, that explains it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Good question. All right, so here you can see the list of them. And here you can see with this as a base year up here, this December 2020, First Presbyterian of Jeffersonville has saved 4.7%, United Methodist Church in Mooresville is 3.9%. And you get down to my congregation down here, and we actually went the other way. We're using more, 13.7% more energy than we did with the year ending in December 2020. And you can also look here and see the actions, the percent of the number and the percent of actions that are available. And interestingly enough, we could sort of click on this and it'll sort based on that. So you'll see that UU Bloomington has actually worked on 69 of their actions. My church, 64, St. Luke's Methodist, 61, and so on. And so it's sort of sorted down. And a lot of these people down here are just getting in and they haven't done any yet. And then here.
Ray, can I ask a question about the whole percentage thing in December 2020? How are you going to count for COVID, basically? What are we going to do here? Because I'm telling you, we're going to go up. I mean, because we were practically. So I think we have to have some way to account for that if we can't go back farther, because, committing to drop 25% when in 3 years, when you're yourself on a year when you are closed, the math won't work.
Yes. We don't know the answer to that. We just know that it's something we have to deal with. And another thing, I'm going to show you an example of another thing that's happening to us right now. Okay. Even if we're using less energy, unfortunately, our costs are going up.
Right.
I don't know if you've noticed that, I've been seeing AES Indiana is going to raise their rates for electricity by 19%, and Duke Energy's in the same boat. So we don't know. All we can say is that it would have been worse. So we haven't sorted that out, how to figure that out. It's going to be some trickiness going on. So,
but also part of that is why we've asked if we have your utility data, then we can try to get the past 2 years, and you can choose if you want to put all your data from 2019 in there, for example. Then you can also see what you've done.
We can change our baseline. Got it.
That's exactly right. Yeah, okay. we're not holding anybody's feet to the fire and saying, by golly, you got to be when you first join up. If you can get some older data, that's great.
Okay.
So yeah, don't let that give you any fits. I'm going to click on Energy Star now and sort by Energy Star. Energy Star is a rating that's given to congregations by portfolio manager or EPA. And here you can see that we have one congregation in cohort 1 that's has a rating of 96 out of 100. That means out of all the congregations that are signed up with portfolio manager or energy stewards around the country, this congregation is the 96th percentile. Then 95, 93, 92, 82, 80, 70, 76. I'll also point out that you need, some of this is a little misleading too, because Neighborhood Fellowship of Indianapolis, you see, they have not been keeping up their data. Their last data that's been put in here is from 2018. So we need to work on them to say, do you want to be part of this or not? And if you want to be part of it, we got to get your solar data in here so that we can treat everybody fairly. So anyway, and then not the last column, but the next column shows you how many cents or dollars per square foot these congregations are spending. And so like Fellowship of Hope is 28 cents a square foot, 60, 24, 30, 29. And as you go on, well, then I should probably sort this as well. So yeah, we start 24, 30, and we get down here to the bottom, and you see one congregation is spending $2.70 a square foot, like 10 times what the lowest cost people are up at the top. Now you have to say, there's something going on there. If I were a member of this congregation, this would keep me awake at night. And I just think about how many thousands and thousands of dollars are going up in smoke, never to be brought back. So that's what we're looking for. Anyway, so this is the screen where you can compare everyone. I will mention also that if you get into this and you really start looking at it and you have a serious question or your data doesn't look right to you, all you need to do is click on this right here. And that will take you to Warren Gaskell, who is our contact at Energy Stewards. And you can then write him a letter, an email, and send it to him, and he'll respond to you. I wouldn't bug him if you don't have to, but don't be shy about it either, because he knows much more about how all this works and why some number might not look right. And there's some really good reasons why some of this doesn't work out sometimes.
And that's the email our energy advisor tab at the top there.
Yeah, right here. Okay. So I'm going back. Okay, where am I going here? Here we go. Okay, we're back. You can click here and find out what's in there about your account. There's got my name and my telephone number and my password and all that sort of thing. So you can find things like that. And we go back again. So I want to take you into one congregation that I happen to be looking at today that just has some good examples. A new congregation, relatively new. Christ Lutheran. No, that's not what I want. I want Christ Lutheran in Kokomo. So now I need to talk to you while this is loading data, because once you get a fair amount of data in here, then it takes a little while for the computer to get it all loaded. Okay, so this is Christ Lutheran in Kokomo. Their building is 13,547 square feet. They've done 27 actions. They have an Energy Star score of 49. They spend about $7,500 a year or 55 cents a square foot. And they emit over the last 12, over the last year, on average, they're emitting 44 tons of carbon dioxide a year. And for those of you who don't think about this, that's probably about the same amount as a family would from a family of 4, let's say, it has a car and the food they eat and the transportation they take and the vacations they go on and the heating and cooling their homes. That's not too far off. So this congregation is doing pretty well as far as that's concerned. They use 6 gallons of water per square foot, and their last data was inputted in April 2022. By the way, this congregation has just gotten solar panels, and I just noticed that their solar data hasn't gotten started in here. So I just sent a note to the lady who's in charge of this site and said, you need to get online with Warren Gasco and start getting in your energy data from the solar panels. So when you go in to put in, say that you're doing an action, you will find, I'm going to just click on this, and it says that 522, that's the number of action. It was put in there on February 13th. They chose high quality LED light bulbs to install them. And I think there should be a way for me to click on that. I'm not sure why it's not going on. Well, I guess that's all I'm going to get. There they talk about something else, and I'll get you there. They're checking on, are all the LEDs, are all the exit signs, do they have LED bulbs in them? And let's see here. So you can also keep track of special things that you do. So, and this is really highly advised. As you do these things, you'll be doing this over a course of years, and different people will be doing things. If you don't keep track of them, you will forget. And the way to not forget is to get them written down. So notice that, so this, from their baseline year, starting at December 2020, they've reduced their energy consumption by 2.4%. Their cost is not showing up here, and I'm not sure why that is. It's probably because some data is missing somewhere, and that has to be worked out. And they've reduced their carbon emissions by 4.3%. And they have data in here back to July 2020. So they're new. And right now you can see this is their Energy Star numbers. And as you see, as you cursor over these numbers, you see the date and you see the actual number. So they were down probably through COVID where they weren't using very much energy. And now they're starting to get back in business, and they're starting to see their energy use can go up. Right now, though, it's going down. Who knows what that might be? I'm not sure. And this is their energy, a monthly energy spend. That's gas and electric. And you can see this, and you might say, well, why would it be so up and down? Well, look at this. That's December, January. So that's when they started really heating the buildings. And so that's when most of their energy intensity happens. Here in the summertime, there's not much going on. Probably, they have some electric, but not much. Now, if you want to know more, you click here on View Details. And now you start to see some much more information. So here's their electric use. And these lines here actually how much they used and how much it cost for July 2020. Now I'm looking here, wonder what this one is. This is back to this January again, where, well, I'll get to the right, yeah, January. I really want this one right here. Anyway, January says they used a lot of electricity and it cost them that much money. And if I look over here in January, they didn't use as much as the year before. I wonder why that would be. What happened here? I would want to know this because something went on there that they probably had something running they didn't need to have running. And it probably cost them, you know, several $100s that month that they didn't need to spend. Here, they kept their costs down. The other interesting thing to me is that this green line is how many dollars they spent. And look at this. Here they bought electricity. I mean, they used electricity, but it didn't cost anything, didn't cost anything, didn't cost anything, didn't cost anything. What's going on here? So I went up here and let's see, I clicked on this and they kept a record that said their church meter number, this one, had correct kilowatt hours entered, but Duke Energy wrongly charged their church for an additional meter that wasn't theirs. So prior to this time, they were paying for somebody else's electricity. That explains some of that high electricity that I just talked about in January. So unbeknownst to them, they were paying for 2 electric bills and they finally figured it out. And so for several months, like 6 months or so after that, they got credits for that electric that they had been paying for that they didn't know about. And I can tell you, it happens all the time that these things happen. We had one church in the other cohort, when they joined Energy Stewards, they had this really high $1,000 bill for water in 1 month. And all the other bills were like $100 a month. And I saw that and I said, what's going on? Did you see this? No, we didn't see it. And the thing that you need to understand is the people who are running the church, you know, the guys like us who are checking on the commodes and the thermostats, we don't pay the bills generally. The people who pay the bills, they get a bill, they pay the bill. They paid the bill. So when I said, you should check that. Why did you have $1,000 bill? Well, it turns out they found out that one of their commodes was stuck running and they didn't know it. It's a pretty big church, a lot of bathrooms. So they went to the water company and said, guess what? We had a commode that's stuck and we got this $1,000 bill. Can you help? We fixed it. Can you help us out? And the water company gave them $800 back. So they paid for their Energy Stewards annual fee for 4 years, just by one thing that they caught. And I can tell you personal stories I will share probably over time about embarrassing things that have happened to me along this line when I didn't check. Anyway, so here's another interesting thing. I'm going to get rid of this. Another interesting thing that I noticed is here, you see the gas cost, the green is so much lower than the actual usage here. And over here on the other side here, the gas cost is getting up closer to the top of the usage. And what is that telling us? It's telling us the price of gas is going up and the cost of electricity is going up. So while I'm about it, I'll point out that you can click on these little bars here, and then you can print out the full screen of the graphs, if in case you wanted to print them out and put them on a bulletin board at church. You can do that so you can show people, or put it in the bulletin for that matter, or put it in a newsletter and say, look what's going on with our congregation. I bet you didn't know this. And all of a sudden, if you can start enlisting the people in the congregation with hey guys, we're trying to save energy here. And you all have a lot to do with it. You can't come in and just jack up the thermostats and then walk away, because that's not going to work. We aren't going to save energy when we do that. Here's the water use. And look at this. They're using a lot more water. And I guess that has to do with they're back in business now. Prior to this is the COVID times here. And now they're back to being there. And their tons of CO2 have gone up to this point, and then they're back down. And this is another interesting situation where, how do you really sort all this out? If they've been paying for electricity over here that they didn't even use, the database doesn't know that. All it knows is how much they paid for and how many kilowatt hours they tallied up. So some of this could get crazy here as far as how much carbon dioxide they theoretically used but didn't really use. So, but you would never know this unless you dig into this material and understand what's going on.
Ray, real quick, that the upper left graph I saw, I went in and 2021, that winter was before we started that cohort. And in 2022, by this winter, they had installed programmable thermostats. We had talked about temperatures that your pipe organ can be set at lower than what people previously thought, and things like that might be some of the reasons why you see, oh, we're already kind of starting to notice a little bit of impact there.
Yeah, so if you go up here to these little green things, this says that on this date, they completed one of these actions. And this is where they celebrated their Earth Day Sunday. They had a big celebration and joining Thriving Faith Communities. And so they can keep track of all the things that they're doing. And again, I encourage you to take advantage of this. You can then list them all out and see over time what you have done. So this is their Energy Star numbers. It's pretty steady. What we want to do is get them up above 75. That's the magic number. If you can get above 75, then you can get certified as an Energy Star congregation. And energy intensity, and this, what's interesting about Energy Star and what energy intensity is these numbers are weather justified. In other words, if it's a cold winter, it's expected that you'd use more energy. If it's a warm winter, it's expected that you would use less energy. But if you'd used more, then it lets you know, in fact, that you aren't as good as you thought you were. And so these numbers are 1,000 BTUs per square foot. So that converts your gas and your electric into British thermal units, BTUs. And again, it allows you to compare yourself with all the other congregations in the country that are on part of Portfolio Manager. Now, let's say this doesn't give you all the data that's in their database. It only gives you basically like 2 or 3 years worth. If you want to see all their data, you can go down here and you can say, I want to see the natural gas, the electric, the water, the Energy Star, or all my data. So I'm going to click on this and see what I can find out. So then you get a big Excel spreadsheet that says, okay, here's this first section. Here's where they calculate your Energy Star number. This is your greenhouse gas emissions. And if you want to go down further, this is their natural gas. So you can go down there, you can make sure you have the data, and you can spread this out so you make sure you understand what the units are at the top. This is energy use in therms. And then this one is energy cost. And this also is where you really start to see these pounds of carbon dioxide that are emitted. This is where it really starts to show up. how many pounds in the winter time frame that you're really putting out, pounds of carbon dioxide in that month.
So you're looking at an Excel sheet, right?
Yep. And
It's
so
probably
you could,
not being shared right now, but that's what
okay, they can't see this.
you're talking about. Yeah,
Oh, they can't see this.
not right now, but it's an Excel
Oh,
sheet that shows
yeah, I'm sorry.
by date and how much each of those
Yeah, so I would,
shows.
for the next time I do this, I'd have to have that opened as another screen that I could go to. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Okay, yes.
just explaining it.
All right, good. So I'm going to get out of this. So to get back to where I was. Okay, so I'm not going to take too much more time. Let's see what else I wanted to make sure that we talked about.
Can
yeah.
I ask a question real quick?
Certainly.
How do you leave a note on your account to say, this month we installed LED light bulbs, for example?
You can go here and mark special event. So I would type in here some sort of subject, and then I would type whatever that special event is. I put the date in, and then I'd say, yes, I want this to show on as a little yellow triangle on my graphs. And I can also attach a photograph. I can also then post it to a report gallery. And when things are working right, and I tried it recently, it didn't seem to go through, you click on this and it will share it with other people. In fact, it'll share it with your whole cohort group. And what's beautiful about that is you're sort of encouraging other people to do the same thing, to share that they're doing something. And you can also go into some posts in this area and you can say, where are you all buying your 4-foot LED light bulbs? What are you paying for them? And where could we get the best price? So anyway, once you fill all this in, then you click on add event, and that's the way you do it, Sarah. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm having trouble here because I can't get down below my Zoom to get rid of this. There we go. Nope. Okay, yeah, I guess I'm out of that. Now I'll go back. Okay, so now if I'm finished with this, I can just say, okay, I want to go back one more step and one more step. And now I'm back to where we started. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through this, but these are tabs. Let's, if I wanted to see electric use for all the congregations in one page, you see I clicked on this. Again, it's going out and gathering lots of data, and it's going to go and show me little graphs of everybody's electricity use. And it's still working. See this thing up here is still working. And by the way, you can show it by kilowatt hours per square foot, dollars per square foot, or CO2 per square foot. So it's doing calculating. Again, I'll just point out that you can do what I just did here for gas, electric, energy production if you have solar. One of the things I found out when I clicked on this energy production, I realized that there are a number of congregations in here that have solar panels, but they aren't putting their data in. And so you'll see how they put in a very small number just to keep them active, but we need to get after those people to get their solar data in there. So here's Fellowship of Hope. Again, this is kilowatt hours per square foot. And you can see they use very, very few kilowatt hours per square feet. St. John's of Crawfordsville, Here's Christ Lutheran, Crawfordsville. Here's Beth Shalom of Bloomington that doesn't have their data in yet. Winchester Friends, they don't use very little. Here's Christ Lutheran, who we were just looking at, and see this data we were talking about? Wouldn't you know, it shows up there again. And so that's when they were paying for electricity for somebody they didn't know they were paying for. Now just notice the difference. These are the same scale on the side here. And Trinity Episcopal in Bloomington, look how much they're using compared. And again, I would look at this, what is going on? This is August. Something's going on there. They're using a lot of electricity in August to cool a building that I would bet shouldn't be cooled to the extent they're doing it. They're just hundreds of dollars, tons of carbon dioxide going to waste right there. First Christian of Crawfordsville, we don't have that data. Here's my UU church. You can see we have ups and downs, and generally there's in August. We have a school. And so the school does run those air conditioners when they're there. A normal congregation wouldn't have near that bump up in the summer. There's our winter time. There's our winter time where we have gas furnaces, but we're going to get rid of those gas furnaces. Here's Bethel Cathedral. They're here in Indianapolis. They're pretty steady. They're a new congregation, a new building pretty much. UU Bloomington, I'm a little suspicious of what's going on here. Now, maybe I suppose that could be that they're down to almost nothing right there, but because they have a lot of solar panels and they wouldn't be using any furnaces. So they may not be using, but they're using electricity. So I'm suspicious that their solar data isn't in right there. And here's St. Pete's from Huntington. Huntington. Anyway, I won't take you to the next pages where there's some more congregations to look at, but you can do the same thing. Like if we did do this, I don't know how long it'll take to calculate this. If I'm going to go just see how many pounds of CO2 per square foot these various congregations are using. You can see you have to be patient. It's still doing some calculating here. And then I think I'll wrap up and ask if there are any specific questions, and then I'll turn it back to you, Sarah, where you can start talking about some of the things that you're responsible for here. Does anyone have a question while we're waiting for this calculation to come through? Just unmute yourself and speak up.
Hi, I'm new to this whole forum. So I was wondering how we present this, like what's the website name, and also what do the users, what process do they have to go through to sign up for this application?
You want to handle that, Sarah?
Sure. So
first of all, is your congregation is your congregation?
Julie says the new Green Team organizer for Northwest.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. Okay,
Yeah.
yes. We'll take you offline on this, and we'll get with you.
Answer this offline.
Yeah.
Well, all of these congregations went through a application process and getting their account utility numbers and everything and then it was entered by our Energy Stewards platform.
Awesome.
Registration. Okay. Yeah. But we could definitely go through that more later.
Yeah, and then we'll just give you an assignment of finding 10 congregations to sign up.
Sounds cool.
Okay,
right.
So anyway, here's just, this is looking at the same kind of information, the same congregations, but by CO2 in pounds per square foot per year. And here's back to this Trinity Episcopal. They're using a lot. They're using a lot. And they have solar panels. We know something special about this congregation, just for you all as information. They have an underground river under their church. And we are discovering that there's a very good chance that they can tap into that river to run water heat pumps, water supplied heat pumps. So that's a really, really cut down their energy use in the winter and the summer. So we're hoping they're going to see some really dramatic changes. Okay, I'm going to stop share. And again, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
So Ray, going back to Kim Marie's question, is 25% possible?
Well, I didn't take the time to show you my congregation. And if I did it, in fact, I did it today just to see. We started back in 2008 working on this, not with Thriving Faith Communities, but we just started working on things. But we have data, energy data back to 2008, and we're sitting at just under 50% reduction and over 60-some% reduction in carbon dioxide, which is maybe even more important. So it is possible. It's going to be tricky to do in 3 years, and especially with COVID, mixed in with it. But
and also you can't get, some of your utilities will not give you back data. If you don't have it yourself, they have a limit on how far back they will give you data.
that is true. That is true. And sometimes I know here in Indianapolis, if you know the right person at the gas company and you talk nice, they can give you back 5 years, but not every place. So anyway, you're right. If you threw away the data, you can't get it from the utilities, you're stuck. And getting it from all those old files on paper ballot or paper bills is not fun either, but it's doable if you work at it.
And Marie did that for their congregation, so we need to give her a big round of applause because that was big, like a detective work that she did there.
Yeah.
And I just want to add one additional comment, and that is, we're going to do the best we can with the data, and also just tracking your data actually leads to decarbonizing. So we know that from the research. So this is a really, really important step in seeing emissions and energy usage drop.
I'm going to jump in one more thing. So I told you we were sitting, I think right now when I checked today was like 78.9% reduction over that baseline. And we just put new windows, double pane windows in a building that was almost 100 years old and had single pane windows. And we just put 4 inches of styrofoam insulation over a whole roof that had no insulation before. So we're going to see something happen. I'm just convinced of that. You're on, Sarah.
All right. And one of my favorite things is Ray always says, you play detective. When you see those spikes or something unusual, it means there's something that happened, and those numbers can tell a story if you figure out what it is. But you need like the promoter of the Thriving Faith Communities at your congregation to be the one that can go in and take time to look into that. So our next piece here, we want to share with you information about an energy audit grant opportunity that we have heard about through the Center for Congregations in Indiana. We're trying to find out if they know of any support beyond Indiana into our other tri-state areas in Illinois and Wisconsin, but for sure in Indiana, this is a great opportunity. They offer matching grants to cover energy audits by a professional energy auditor, and then they will include in that grant your registration fee for your Energy Stewards registration, which is why we haven't sent anyone an invoice yet. If you put in the estimate of that cost into the grant proposal, then once that's approved, we can send you the invoice and then get that covered. So as you begin this journey, some of you might have had a recent energy audit. Maybe it was something in depth, but maybe it wasn't. Probably many of you have not had one, or if you did, it might have been a while ago. So the first question is, does our congregation need an energy audit? So if you do, keep reading. We have our contact at the Center for Congregations. Her name is Kara Ferris, and she's a resource grants director there. And she would be someone that you have a direct relationship with them. We can help you and give you advice and help connect you with answers, but they really like to work personally with each congregation. And then at the same time that you email her, So she'll give you the latest version of the grant application. You'll need to know the name of the contractor who's going to perform your energy audit, which is below in step 3. We have someone who's been doing these audits for our congregations. He comes from Texas. He's a professional building auditor, but he also has is connected with a grant opportunity in Texas that helps to pay the other, helps to complete that grant opportunity and cover the rest of that cost. So contact Kara and you contact Colby May at the same time. Sometimes they ask a congregation to find some other estimates from other local auditors, just as good practice, which is fine. So they'll need like the information about your building, similar, pull out your Energy Stewards application form. A lot of that will probably be the same, of the size of your building and other specifics about that. And then he will give you an estimated cost of your audit. And then you'll use that data to put into your application form. And I should qualify that there may be funds available. There have been until now, and we hope that those continue. We're really. So then step 4, once you got the application form in hand, you got your estimate from Colby May, talking to him about your building, and now you are completing the grant application. So you include the estimate, you include the cost of your $200 Energy Stewards registration for this year, for year 1. It's $200 each year. And then also any other consulting work, for example, that you might have that's related to energy efficiency, up to $15,000. So for example, if you want to make a change to your building that's related to energy efficiency and you need an architect that's familiar with green building science, that could be something that could be pulled into the same grant. You can only apply for the grant once a year. So if you do have those projects in mind, you want to try to bunch all of those into the same grant application for this year. So again, this is a matching grant. If you provide half the cost, the Center for Congregations covers the other half. And then there's this very likely match from this other source that through our friend in Texas. This date.
Excuse me, Sarah. So the match that you might get from the source in Texas would only cover the half having to do with the energy audit. It wouldn't
right.
cover the extra half if you're hiring a consultant architect or something.
Yes. Thank you, Ray. I need to update the date on that, but they take applications monthly. So if you get your application in by the 1st of the month, the 3rd week of the month, they review those applications and can get that answer back to you. So today is July 5th. Let's say you do all that work to try to get your application in by August 1st, then you'll hear back from them the 3rd week of August, and then you can start this process of, okay, let's get the invoice for the Energy Stewards registration and then start scheduling the visit for the energy audits. And he'll come up to Indiana and visit a couple of congregations at a time, and we'll try to schedule those all around the same few days so he can go around and visit the different congregations. So just make sure you know that the grant must be approved before you have your energy audit done. Otherwise, it is not covered. So that's an important step in this. So just a few things to keep in mind in step number 5. Colby May can offer the good price in the energy audit because he counts on at least 3 congregations scheduling their audit around the same time. So that helps with kind of his baseline cost. And feel free to reach out to Kara Ferris from the Center for Congregations with any questions about the grant process. Again, they want to have that direct relationship with each of the congregations. And we can try to help answer any questions that you might have also. And then you'll find out after they have that review process of the grant applications. And most likely it's approved. You know, they really just want to have all that information together in the same place. They're really happy to support this kind of work. So yes, that's it for our energy audit. Are there any questions that we'll try to answer about that process? I will, we can send out this one sheet with all of that information so that you can start that process for the grants as soon as possible.
Well, I have a question about 5D, the very last point.
Yes. Okay. So there is this source of funding, and they have a certain amount, and that's why we try to get the grants in as soon as we keep the grant applications in soon. So then they know, all right, we have this number of congregations that are trying to work for that, and we can try to get in while there's still money there for this year. I don't know if that answers it.
Yeah, I'd answer it a little bit differently and say that I don't think there's any limit to Center for Congregations having the money.
Right.
But if you're just getting the money from Center for Congregations, you're only going to get 50% of it. If there's still money in the Texas Foundation, they would match the other half of that energy grant application.
Yes.
I mean, of grant, yeah. So it would be, what's limited perhaps might be the source in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it looks like 5D is actually where it could start to help with some of the materials for building equipment improvements. That seems to be what it says.
That is not correct.
Oh, I apologize. That is a good question. That was some of the congregations in our cohort are grant recipients who received, there was a limited number of funding, and I think yours is.
So cross that off the list.
For now, yeah.
For now, that's it.
Hopefully get more this year, but in the meantime, yeah, that initial grant is gone.
Yeah.
So Sarah, back to that 15,000, that was part of that also. That was the limitation there, or is Center for Congregations 15,000 also? Oh, okay, it is. All right.
This one, 4C, you can include any consulting work related to energy efficiency. This is Center for Congregations.
Okay.
Up to 15,000 total grant request.
Thank you.
Yeah. But remember that your congregation will have to cover the rest of that match, because the source in Texas will only cover the second half of the match for the energy audit. So if you want to plan a redesign of your doors or your windows with an architect, their fee for that work could be included in that request, but they would only cover maybe 50% of their cost.
I just had a question about the timeline. It says return by December 1st, but are you saying that is that the first of every month?
Yes.
Okay, and then how soon could the audit could occur faster than January, or I guess I'm looking at the timeline for it.
Yes. We had congregations submit their grant requests, some by January 1st, and I think we had them in early March, and some even in February. So it's about 2 months, by the time you submit the application, then you hear if it's approved, and then you schedule the visit maybe a few weeks after that. It's about 1.5 months or 2 months if you can really, from the time that you send in your application.
And I just want to kind of emphasize a couple other things. I spelled it incorrectly, everybody correct me, but it's ASHRAE level energy audit, which is a high level energy audit. This is not just going around and looking. He's very well trained at finding where the building steel needs to be fixed and what improvements you can make. And that's really what, for the rest of the year, we're going to sort of set priorities based off of that. So this is a really important step for your congregation to take if you haven't taken it yet, in terms of setting priorities for the rest of the year.
Yeah, the way you refer to it, it's ASHRAE level 2 audit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a bulky application. They try to make it pretty easy. So So definitely, it's all you need is the amount for the audit and Energy Stewards application fee, and if any other additional things that your congregation wants to do. It's very straightforward and easy. So.
And I would add to that is many times the onerous part of grants is the report you have to write up after you've gotten the grant and done the work. And in this case with Center for Congregation, with this kind of audit, it really, I have gone through it for my church, and it wasn't very onerous. So I wouldn't shy away from doing it if you choose and feel you need it. There are some congregations personally that they have kind of experts, you know, contractors, engineers, just people who do this for a living, who can certainly do it for themselves. So don't feel you have to, but it's an opportunity.
If you have any other questions, feel free to get in touch with us, but I do want to be respectful of everyone's time and just have a chance to show you where you can find things on our Google Drive. I'm going to give you a link here, and this is to our Google folder for our cohort. And it will be, when you click on that, it will show you this screen right here, which is our TFC cohort 2 members Google folder. It's, you can consider it like a folder in your hard drive, except it's on Google Drive online. So there is a folder, what is Thriving Faith Communities? What is Faith in Place? And that has those resources where you can find if you need to share more information with others in your congregation or another congregation that would like to get involved. And then there's a folder that has our June resources from our last month's call here. And in this TFC C2 July 2022, we'll have, we already have some resources there that go along with this month's call, like that information sheet about the energy audit resource, notes from the meeting, which is, I think this is last month. But we'll get those, the notes from the meeting will be there. Let me remove that so we don't confuse anyone. We have the agenda.
That's me. Don't remove it. That was me.
Hold
I'm
on.
editing it in the folder.
Okay. We'll take a look at that. Okay, I do have a place where I can look for that. And then our agenda to agenda number 2 will be there, as well as the slides or any other information. The video recording link from today's video recording will be there. And if there's any other resources that can be helpful for you. So that is it for Google Drive.
But will the information about the grant be, that you just shared also be on that Google Drive?
Yes.
It's for the Center for Congregations.
Yes. And I'm going to make sure to have all those dates updated to make so that there's no confusion on, but that's already there. The month here. Yes, the grant, we'll send you a direct link to that too, so that you don't have to search for it too hard.
That's just to say, that's really great resource. I think Center for Congregations' primary funder is Lilly Foundation in Indianapolis, and they've just been a generous group to at least Indiana people.
Yeah.
Faith-based and otherwise.
Yeah, they're really great. There's any other questions? Otherwise, Ray, do you want to conclude with
So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, Dory, yeah.
Yeah, so our I did want to talk briefly about assignments too, but I don't know if Ray, you had something.
Well, I was just going to say, we have several people who aren't on the call at the moment, and one who had to leave during this session. And we would like to just sort of check in with everyone to see whether the first Tuesday at 5 is the best time for everyone. And this is, as everybody can appreciate, this is an impossible task to try to get everybody on the same page as far as this is concerned. But we would like to, I guess, get some feedback. You all are here because you're all able to be here. Is this an okay time at this time of the day as well as this time of the month? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, it sounds like with no, I mean, again, the people who aren't here can't vote, but we'll go with that.
I do have a question, if we have time to fit it in here. Our congregation has been looking at replacing some ancient furnaces, and we're really wanting to find a source of, solid data for what we can estimate that we would save in energy costs by replacing the furnaces. We have 7 furnaces. 5 out of the 7 are really old. And I think we've pretty much settled on replacing those 5, but the question is whether or not to replace the 2002, I think it was 2002 furnaces. That would be the 2 larger ones.
I'm going to jump in and say something you probably don't want to hear, but you have a perfect opportunity. I presume these are gas furnaces.
No, they're electric.
Oh,
They're heat pumps, Esprit.
Heat
You
pumps.
might clarify. They're heat pumps.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Yes, I would definitely go for it. I mean, I have to tell you, for me, and I have to say for my congregation, we have decided we're going for trying to get down to 0 carbon emissions. And we really don't look at the cost savings from electricity over gas or that. We're just replacing gas furnaces with electric furnaces or, heat pumps. And from what I can tell at this point, by the way, which congregation am I talking to?
Paoli Mennonite.
Great. Okay. I'd like to talk to you some more about that because I'd like to know your experience. There's Farmland Friends up in Farmland, Indiana, has all electric heat pumps and resistance heating. And I'd like us to maybe get a couple of us together and just talk about this and, one-on-one, because there are these low temperature heat pumps at this point, and you can get away with having less resistance heating. And maybe we could learn something together if we could work on that together. Yeah, so that's a rambling on about heat pumps, and I thought was sure you were talking about gas furnaces, but if you're talking, yeah, I think about it.
Would there be any, in terms of deciding whether to replace those 2 newer ones now or 3 or 4 years from now, would there be any hard data that we could offer people in terms of like
have you spoken to any HVAC contractors yet?
Sort of. we got a quote.
Uh-huh.
I say sort of jokingly because our HVAC contractor doesn't like to talk to us. He sort of shows up and he never gets back to us on what he did, or one of those guys.
Okay. Yeah.
So he did get us a quote.
Tell you what, let's not take everybody's time, but get back in touch with me in particular. I'd love to talk more about this because I need it learn more about it at my church as well. We want to go with, we have these gas furnaces when we use heat pumps. And then it's just a matter of getting the electricity to the right place and all that sort of thing. So that's you and me talk.
Uh-huh, sure.
All right. Thanks. Okay, so let's see. We decided about dates and then the assignments. You want to take care of that, Dory?
Yeah, so you will get from us an Energy Stewards scavenger hunt that your team can do between now and next month, just to kind of familiarize yourself with the Energy Stewards platform just a little bit more. You'll get that document that Sarah described with the grant application. So complete that grant application for an energy audit and schedule your energy audit if you need it and choose to do it. And then begin work on your action table. This is really the actions that you saw in your Energy Stewards platform to see which actions, like we talked today and we listed, which ones you're thinking might be good to start with. And then also, if you're a team leader, please find someone from your team to assign them to do task of the month. This is the task will be given to you in both social media format and also printable format for your church bulletins. And we want someone who's, could be 2 people, one person who gets it in the bulletin, one person who gets it on your social media page, but it's a really easy energy effort that your congregants can do over the month. So that's also just assigning a team member to do that and be in charge of that is one of the assignments.